It's Friday, October 29th, and you, my friend, are listening to the absolutely final last episode of The Drive. Hey, everybody, I'm confused. We have Sean, we have Catherine, we have Ollie. And who's this stranger who has never once appeared on screen before? Who is this person who's crashing the party? Stranger, who are you?
I am Daniel. I'm the producer and editor of the show.
Daniel. He's the man who makes Catherine and Sean and I look great. Nobody can help Ollie, just so we're clear on that. But the rest of us, Daniel's the man. He is very patient with us. He mocks us. He tells us when we do stuff wrong. He makes us re-record stuff. He tells us we're talking too much. He yells at me in my ear or on Slack and says, move on to the next topic. It's like having a spouse, only...
It's just about to send that message, actually.
Yes. Time to move on. Okay, guys, here we are. It's the last episode. We've been building up to this. It's the very last episode here on The Drive. The Drive was founded as part of our participation in the Sales Experts channel. And the Sales Experts channel will be formally wrapping up at the end of this year. And like every good organization, we decided to go out on our own schedule. So that is it. This is it. We hope you enjoyed it. Let's get a few housekeeping things out of the way. If you have not followed Sean Finder, Catherine Robles, or Ollie Whitfield on LinkedIn, you should do that. But while you're there, follow Daniel, because he's pretty connected. He knows all the players. He's the magic behind the scenes. He's the matchmaker. He's the man. Follow us all, and the conversations can continue to live. With that, we're going to have a bit of an odd show today. We're going to bounce into some of the content that we've got, and then we're going to go off on tangents. And we're just going to small talk and have some fun. So kick back, relax, get yourself a drink, chime into the conversation, and let's enjoy this final episode, the celebratory episode. So I'm going to start with this. Every show starts with the road ahead, and to wrap things up, because we know the road ahead will never happen again here on The Drive. There's two things we want to talk about. Number one, it's the B2B Marketing Expo in London, England at the Excel Center. VanillaSoft is the platinum sponsor. Myself, I have two speaking engagements. We have a VIP party. It's going to be an amazing time, so please join us there. But Ollie, apparently there's some lame webinar coming up. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, this lame thing that Daryl Prale, that guy that some people have heard of, he's hosting for me. And to give you the long and short of it, the ultimate guide to appointment setting. So I've got a couple experts. I say a couple, I mean three. One who specifically focuses on cold calling, one who's on cold email, and one on primarily LinkedIn, but social media as a whole. The three main channels, basically, in my eyes. And these three guys, they work for firms who set appointments for you as a company. So the premise is they have to be damn good at it. Otherwise, they're in big trouble. So I interview them, and we're going to have a good time. I hope I can see you there, November 10th, 2 p.m. Eastern.
All right, so you can check that out at probably VanillaSoft.com or AutoClose.com. Check it out. If not, just follow Ollie on both LinkedIn and Twitter, by the way. He's quite busy there as well, and the link's over there. One third consideration for the road ahead, not an event, but it is soon to happen. And this is my one and only small little plug. I learned recently, earlier this week, that Chili Piper has initiated a kind of a best of the best of marketers in the industry. And apparently they had 107, if I understand this right, and by the way, it's a little confusing, so I could have it wrong. There's 170 people who will all kind of get honorable mention, and they'll all get some kind of token tchotchke from the folks at Chili Piper. But then there's an additional 32, and you're saying to yourself, 32, why 32? 170, 32, that's 202, that's an odd number. There's 32, yes, 32. 32 marketers who are going to contend to be the best of marketers. So those are the ones that they deem to be the most prolific, most capable marketers in the industry today, and they're going to have basically a popularity contest. How? It's a bracket, just like the NCAA. So you got to get 16 players on each side, and they're going to pit one against the other, and it's just it's a popularity contest. Effectively, you vote, and then you either progress if you win, or you're done and you're out if you lose. So that's about to happen imminently. Check it out at Chili Piper. I apparently am one of those 32. So this is me pleading, begging, and totally requesting you to vote for me and nobody else during that session. Well, at least whoever I'm pitted against, pick me over them. So that's it. I'm going to go to Catherine, because Catherine always is great for ruining my ego. Catherine, I imagine you're not shocked or surprised that I am a finalist in these 32. And you probably wish that you could just spend more quality time with me to learn from me and just get it all. Is that a fair statement?
Sure. No kidding. Like, for real, I think you know your things. You're smart. You share some really good insights. And I really believe that you have a lot to offer for, anyone in marketing, even sales, and any of the other, areas, GTM groups that are interested into knowing best practices. And I really hope that you get the support that, you are asking for and that you deserve.
That's code for saying, but I'm not going to vote for you, just so we're clear on that, okay?
I'll vote for you. You've got it.
All right. Sean, I'm going to throw you under the bus right away. Let's just get this party started as we immediately go off the rails. When you reflect back on your time about the drive or the show or the production or just the promotion, anything related, what sticks out of you? First thing jumps to your mind as you reflect. That you can share publicly in a public environment.
Yeah, well, the one thing I found about the drive, which was really, really good for the average listener, is that it basically told you everything that happened that week, all the news in the industry, in a 30-minute episode. And I think one of the things was, sometimes you don't have enough time to find out who's raising money, who's merging and acquiring. There's a lot of different things going on in the industry right now. And it's kind of like, I call it the Coles notes. So you get the Coles notes of everything that's going on. But I think it's been a great series for the people that don't have the time to actually see what's actually going on in the industry. So that's what I would say is the reason why I always listened every week, even when I wasn't a guest, one of your special guests on the episode, Daryl.
Now, for our American friends, Coles Notes, it's a Canadian reference. That'd be the same as a Cliff's Notes, just so you know. We do that, cultural exchange. Daniel, what was your biggest challenge producing the show? I got to ask you. And was there anything notable about this show versus all of the other shows you produce? Because for context, Daniel produces all of the content, podcasts, webinars, videos, him and his minions here at both VanillaSoft and AutoClose. Anything notable about this show?
This show was probably the biggest challenge out of all the shows we do. We do pre-record it, and then I edit it up to be distributed at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central every Friday. So getting it recorded and edited in time and exported in time to air has always been the biggest challenge. Compared to the other shows, this is the only one that we really pre-record and have out same day. So it was just the timing and getting everything down pat so that we could so the show could go on.
That's the biggest thing you're doing a weekly news show, is that you're trying to capture the news. So imagine if we pre-record it 3 days in advance, so then, a day before the show goes live, there's a major announcement or an acquisition, then we're screwed. So it was always making it close. Ollie, I got to go to you. One of the favorite segments of the show was always the rant. So we started to see a little bit of a theme from you. I think Catherine may have commented on that too, often when we were in our pre-show going over the rant. And we started to see some variations of a theme, shall we call it, where you were just annoyed with people perhaps being disingenuous, or just sometimes the games that are played in social media to get attention, or how much certain influencers just get a lot of engagement from sycophants without adding value, and how annoying that was. Are you okay? We all want to know. Are you okay?
It does sound like there's a lot going on in the background behind the scenes, and I should have a serious conversation with the counselor or something to that effect, doesn't it? But I enjoy my social media and LinkedIn and stuff like that. I find it quite good fun. So it annoys me when these things go on, and I think it's a bit of a plague on the platform. So whether that makes me not okay or not, I'm still I'm still fired up about it.
Well, you're here live. So give us another version of your rant. Rant right now, Ollie. What is bothering you this week? We're just like middle of the show. What's on your mind?
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it.
All right. No pressure then. Not on the spot whatsoever, but I'll think of something. So, okay, here it is. I interviewed somebody for a podcast and a webinar, and he gave me some fantastic advice. He said, if you don't want to post some boring, long, stupid, goofy story on your LinkedIn where it's, I once met a homeless person outside my office and I gave them a £5 note and they won the lottery with it, which is a whole load of BS, as we all know. We see that stuff. If you want to do a poll and you're not going to post something like, what temperature do you like your aircon to be at? And that's the poll. Do something relevant about your work. So for me, it would have been, what's your cold calling opening line? And then a couple options. Or what's your best cold email call to action? And a couple options. I did that, and I had, now, of latest count, 40,000 views, and I have 6,000 followers. So I never even get close to 6,000 views on anything, no matter what. 40,000 is a multiple of that. And I still get people saying, oh, don't post polls, it's boring, it's stupid, don't do that. What would you like me to do then, everybody? That's my rant. What do you guys think?
So so your rant is what do I have to do to get attention other than a poll? Is that basically the...
If it's not a poll, it's something else that doesn't work. It's what do you want, everybody? Come on. Everything's wrong.
All right, Catherine, Sean, Daniel, who wants to jump in? He needs a hug, first off, and he wants validation. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your take? Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll just jump in. I think there are a lot of, it's funny when I do sometimes look at LinkedIn that the polls or the messages or anything that people write that I actually find value get less engagement than people that say, I grew up working in my garage and then I became this. It's kind of like what you were and what you are now. Whereas, I would be more if I saw what are your best first line, what are your first 3 sentences you write in a cold email? What is the best subject line? How many words are in the subject line? And the funny thing is those get the less engagement than these stories that people put out. So I'm not 100% against Ollie and his rant today because I do agree with the value doesn't get shown as much as people just even making up stories or saying stories that, of something that happened 20 years ago compared to what happened today. So Ollie, you have my vote today. I like the rant.
You and me are good friends, Sean.
Catherine, what do you think?
Every time that Ollie shares his rant around, how can I get more metrics? Why my posts are not getting the traction that I want to? Why, if I'm adding value, I still don't get, the engagement that I should, and these others are. Like, this is not the first time that we have a conversation around that portion. And I will say the same thing as always is, one, you be you, right? Are you here to really add value and do things that feed your why and, make you feel proud of you, sharing your thoughts and engaging with people? Or are you there just to simply please the audience, right? And that for me is where it all starts for anyone that it's trying to build on that personal brand or wants to have a little bit of more presence in the social media world is, why are you doing it? Because at the end of the day, views are nothing. You can have 10,000 views, and if you have no one engaging with you, you're having zero impact, right? The view is just scrolling down on the feed. So what exactly is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then stick to it. And some days you might, the algorithm might give you a benefit and some others might not. But one thing I do know is that people that do care for learning and being surrounded by people that do add value and help them develop and be better, they're making a solid and focused, intentional effort to actually keep up with what that person is posting and doing. So beating the algorithm. The folks that really don't care and go into LinkedIn to just lurk around and see what is happening, they're just following what the algorithm decides to do. So it's up to you, obviously, to come up with your plan and what you really want to accomplish. And then it's up to the people that it's following you. If they see the value of it, they'll always look for you and will try to be part of your world and your shares. So if you want to do polls, do them. Haters will always hate. Right, Daryl? People will always find something to peek about. Daryl will always find something to come back to me. And hey, we still work together and smile for the big majority of the day. So, hey, you, be happy, and look for what you really want to accomplish. Like, it just comes down to that. What feeds and fuels your heart? And then go with it.
If you did post with documents, your engagement, your reach will grow 10 to 15%. If you did post with video, your reach will grow 5 to 10%. You want to boost your reach to the audience. Similarly, if your post has less than 3 lines of text, your reach will drop by 20%. Oh, so these are all kind of, 10 to 20% range I'm giving you, right? If you have a poll, your reach grows between 80 and 100%. So effectively, a poll can double the number of people who see your viewers. So when Ollie, you say you typically average 6,000, according to this, you should have reached 12,000, but you reached 40,000. So that's why there's so many polls. It's all about dwell time. Other than that, the next best one is post with documents. And oh, by the way, it's all about the text. If you always see people have like lots of text, if you have massive amounts of text, that increases dwell time because people have to read it. That's why they do massive amounts of text. That's all it is. So it's all a game, kids. Anyway, Richard Vanderblom, follow him, LinkedIn Algorithm Report. There you go. You heard it here first, or maybe second or third, but that's the scoop. Let's go over Daniel. Daniel, what was notable about the show for you? Because and without giving anything away, Daniel's a veteran of the industry in multiple medias, television, film, online. This show, what stands out for you on this show beyond the time constraints?
Beyond the time constraints. Wow. I didn't think you're going to hit me with this kind of question of what makes it stand out. I think for me, what I really appreciated about the show was the spontaneity to it. I mean, we would gather the news stories. We wouldn't really talk too much about how we were going to present them. We just went right into it. Went into it with just the story and then the in-depth analysis behind each one. And for me, it was genuine. Because it was spontaneous, there was more genuine reflection of the interest into these topics and the subject. And it was really quick. Like when I'm editing it, it's the slowest thing in the world. But when I'm watching it, the 40 minutes just zips right by.
I think what I liked about it from that point, it's interesting you say that, and I know Catherine and I have talked about this before. It's the stuff we would share that wasn't in the press release. That's what always sticks out of me, right? Oh, I raised $50 million. Isn't that exciting? Oh, but I didn't tell you my new valuation. Why didn't you tell us your new valuation? Because that's the formula. My assumption is your new valuation isn't very good, which means you got a shitty deal, which means things aren't as rosy at your organization as you want to project. Or not, who knows? That's what I really liked about the show.
To your point, I think what really makes this show different from all the rest is that what you see is what you get, right? We all are sharing our thoughts. We all are sharing our take. Sometimes, most of the time, we won't agree with each other, but we still will, feel comfortable kind of supporting our take at it, our view at it. And we encourage people constantly to do the same, right? Just don't be a follower. Look for your voice. Stand up and be aware of what is happening around you, even though you don't agree or you don't find that to be very beneficial. It's always good to know what's happening. And I would say, adding to your last question on what has been the biggest challenge, is just managing Daryl's connectivity. He keeps on coming in and out, right? People don't get to see that in the show thanks to your magic. But behind the scenes, technology does play a huge curveball to us every single time. And some, more than others, tend to have a little bit of a hiccup in that connection. So, hey, kudos to you really for making your magic and making us look good at the end of the day.
And one thing I want to bring up, a notable thing to me was I really thought this show really made an entrepreneur, a CEO really think. because as markets continue to get saturated and small businesses are looking to raise money, you just see a lot of different things, especially now in the industry. A lot of companies are raising at high valuations. A lot of acquisitions are happening. And at the back, you come to this show and you see everything that's happening. You say, let me look at my business and see how we can get better, or are we falling behind, or should we be raising, or should we be getting acquired? So I think it's also good for any type of business, small, medium, or large, or even a startup, because it's really giving you an in-depth analysis of what's going on in the industry. And that was really notable to me week after week.
I think Nathan Latka should have just bought the show, clearly. It would have been a wonderful addition to his little empire. Who needs Entrepreneur on Fire when you can have The Drive? All right. It's time for money, money, money. Ollie, I know this one is relevant to you. A little company called ClickUp. ClickUp, one word, capital C, capital U. They're a productivity and task management tool. They just raised a small amount, $400 million at a $4 billion valuation. That ain't chump change. And I think their funding, if I'm correct, is $535 million to date. So this was, as they like to say, this is the single largest Series C in the workplace productivity market. Okay, every marketer out there is clapping their hands right now, because look how they got a brag point in there, but to do it, they had to get very specific. It's the single largest Series C, not B, not D, not A, C, in the workplace productivity market. So forget every other market in the world, because there were bigger ones. But in this market, damn it, we're the biggest, which I love. It's the point of saying in this category, we're the watch out world, here we come. So, Ollie, I know the whole project management thing and productivity thing has been near and dear to your heart recently. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, well, this is one of those where you can name a handful of tools that do very, very, very similar stuff. I personally use Trello. Probably everybody here has done that, or at least heard of it. Asana, Teamwork, obviously ClickUp. I think Monday.com is one as well that might be very similar to. There's freaking loads of them. So just the numbers jump out at me and you think, wow. I mean, I just reeled off 5-6 companies and they're worth that much. That's something in itself. But I'd like to hear what everybody else is thinking on this. And we, just being honest, we personally have been looking at, is it time for us to change? Should we go from what we're using to one of these ones, one of the other ones here? So what is everybody's favorite? I personally love Asana. ClickUp is my very, very, very close second to Asana, but Trello is my last place one. Try so hard to implement it. Takes me about a week to get ready. Takes me 2 seconds to get turned off from it, and I forget everything that I'm doing there. So what's everybody's vote out of all of these tools?
Sean, let's start with you.
Well, personally, I've used Asana and Trello. I actually didn't mind Trello personally, but I've never used them in depth. So I'm sure you, as a marketer, knowing more about the productivity task management tools. But I think the valuation, that's a big valuation. I'd love to know what their annual revenue currently is to get that valuation, because $400 million on a $4 billion is about 10%. It's interesting because it's a pretty saturated market, to be honest.
Well, I do have a question though. Are they really all that comparable? Because to my understanding, and again, to Sean's point, I don't use them thoroughly, and I really don't even set it up. I just use it, right? So I would have, like, for example, Ollie, you would set it up, and then we will just share any project or, your pipeline to see how things are moving along in that final or those stages, and make sure that they're being accomplished. The projects are being accomplished. But to my understanding, this ClickUp company is a lot more robust. Like, it not only allows you to map out the projects and have, a clear definition of roles, accountabilities, expectations, dates, tracking everything, but you also get to share emails directly that are going to be aligned to those projects. So you have a lot more visibility in that front. It also allows you to share the Excel documents that potentially are as well tracking on any performance and any things that are, any of the milestones within that project. So it's a lot more robust. I feel they stand out from the other two that we're mentioning right now simply because of the offerings that they have. That makes them obviously a more one-stop shop for anyone that it's really heavy on project management. So that's where maybe they do have that huge differentiator that allows them to gather or just be able to cover more space in the market. That's my 2 cents.
So there's a couple of things that are really of interest here. If you've not heard of ClickUp before, because everybody's sort of Trello, obviously, or Asana, 40% of their customers are actually based outside of the U.S. So they have a larger international presence, which would make sense if you've not heard of them in North America. But what's of kudos to these folks. Oh my gosh, and maybe this is the whole COVID thing. A year ago, they had 200,000 teams using their product, and now it's being used by 800,000 teams. So roughly in 1 year, they quadrupled the number of teams using them. So, there's a reason they got $400 million. To answer your question, Ollie, for me, I've been around for a vintage, as you all know. So I was in my heyday, and I was your age, Ollie, which is clearly just a year or two ago. I was a big user of Microsoft Project. All right, and Gantt charts and everything else. And that was the pioneer in the space. Project is a little bit too complex and cumbersome, but true story, at the time I was working for Sybase, the 6th largest software company in the world, big database company. We compete against Oracle and Microsoft in those days. And I went to the Windows 95 launch. I was the representative for Sybase, and I did the entire launch using Microsoft Project. So that was, that's my starting point. I love Trello because the drag and drop Kanban board concept, I love it. But the reality is I need something in between. And my biggest thing, this is Daryl's pet peeve on project management, is very few of them will let you establish an end date and schedule backwards. And as a marketer, that's what I want. This webinar takes place on November 10th. All right, that's when this task happens. Now let's work backwards and says, based on our standard, project template for all the tasks that need to take place in that project, when do we need to start doing our work? The first conceptualization, et cetera. And very few do that. So a couple did. Divi HQ did it. Teamwork did it. But that was my biggest lament. So there we have it. Daniel, are you a project management guru, or are you just an incredible individual who needs no stinking project management?
Correct. It's not applicable for me, this question.
All right, no problem. User Gems. They're going to take on Zoom Info, apparently. Small little company, speaking of hundreds of millions of dollars, and every time they turn around and go to the investment community. And to compete with them, boys and girls, they got $20 million in funding. And that's right. Now, it's a Series A. So maybe 20 million is going to be enough. Who knows? But Ollie, talk to me about User Gems.
Yeah, so the TechCrunch article here doesn't help with that perception, saying they're going to take them on with 20 million. Anyone would say, yeah, all the best with that. Good luck. But the Series A is led by Craft Ventures, Battery Ventures, Tiger Global, and previous backer Uncork Capital, also part of the round as well. Takes them up to 22.4 million to date. The one thing, so this is a Prail special here. The one thing is they have 90 mid-market customers, and a bunch of which who I don't know the name of, apart from Sysense, if that's how you say it, and BrightTalk, which is a couple.
Sysense.
Yes. There we go. So 90 mid-markets. We don't often say mid-market. We always say enterprise.
And BrightTalk, the very platform that we distribute this show on, is their customer.
There you go. But we never ever say mid-market. We always say SMB, always say enterprise. So it's interesting to me that it's mid-market.
I mean, what I think is interesting is they're not enterprise, and they're abandoning the small, which I can understand that the small market has its own its opportunity, but it's got its own challenges. You have a lot of churn at the small market, and those clients can often be the most expensive to onboard. But 90 customers, 20 million. In all honesty, so they had 2.4 million previously to this. That was obviously investor round because it's their Series A. So hats off to them. I think it's great. Their market is, that is not where Zoom Info plays, in my opinion, in the mid-market. They're mostly enterprise. I could be wrong. But either way, check them out. That's a really cool opportunity. If we carry on the conversation, it's time to move on to corporate affairs. At the start of the conversation and the look ahead, I mentioned Chili Piper and their bracket around the marketing affairs. Well, Chili Piper has a new trade show meeting booking feature, which is, I think, pretty damn cool, because I know we were using a Chili Piper competitor for every one of our trade shows to kind of book stuff in advance. So the fact that they actually have a dedicated feature for this, we had to kind of hack the competitors' solution to do this. They come out with it. That is a very unique niche. Sean, you are the king of startups. What's your look when you look at that feature? Anything jump out at you?
I personally love the feature. I early on, I kind of did manually stuff with Calendly and just booked meetings like that. But to have an actual platform that is building out that specific feature, I think it's huge. I remember early on with AutoClose, there was a conference I went to, and I actually didn't, at that point, we were very early on, and I didn't want to pay $1,000 for a seat and walk around the conference. So I actually just went to the conference and booked meetings outside the conference and pretended I had a badge for the conference. And I literally booked meetings from 9 to 5 outside, and people thought I was there for the conference. So I think it's a huge, the only reason you should be going to conferences is if you have meetings. If you don't have meetings booked, there's no reason to go to the conference, personally. But this is a huge feature. I love it. I love that they're doing this specific feature because, as I said, I used to do it manually with Calendly and book and schedule a meeting saying conference meeting and fill out fake meetings throughout the day so people booked it. I love it. Chili Piper, great idea, and I think it'd be really taken well by the community.
What do you think, Catherine? You're the one with the sales team here. Do you want your sales team using this dedicated tool to drive bookings in advance of the trade shows? You think you can either close them on the show floor or soon thereafter, or would you rather them just wing it on, spreadsheets and scraps of paper on the back of a card or something?
No, Daryl, we've talked about it even, with our own team when there has been these past couple of conferences, right? How to make it easier for them and for that prospect, that potential buyer, on setting it all up with one click away, being able to set it up right there, ahead of time or just simply on the floor, and ensure they're they're getting the best out of the moment, and they're definitely, as Sean mentioned, booking meetings and having those conversations to drive business opportunities. So they're nailing it down really with that offering. It's interesting. Again, we keep on seeing how all these in-person events keep on popping up. And then hopefully that's definitely a solid sign of things going back to normal and, the world is simply opening up again. But I know there are still many places. We were talking to Luigi yesterday. Australia is still in lockdown, if I'm not wrong. So that there's a long road, obviously, ahead for certain places as well.
This is a classic case of a company knowing their customer. That's what that is. That's a very specific feature, and hats off to them. It's phenomenal. All right, time for water cooler talk. Who wants to tackle this one? Let me set the stage. There seems to be a bit of a buzz lately on LinkedIn about the whole premise of cold FaceTime as an outreach. And there certainly seems to be an opinion on it. Who wants to share their thoughts first? I see Sean smiling. So, Sean, over to you, man.
This is just my personal opinion. Don't ever cold FaceTime me anybody. I am totally against it. It's just, I find an email, I can decide when I want to reply. A text message, I can decide when I want to reply. A call, I can decide if I want to answer or not. And a cold FaceTime, I don't, depending on I don't really want to FaceTime anybody. That's just a cold prospect. So personal opinion, hate the idea, terrible. Don't do it to me. I won't answer. But I would pass that on to Ollie because I have a feeling he might have the same thoughts as me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't FaceTime anybody. So if I think about the next best thing along from that, it's probably WhatsApp. Even that, I only talk to people that I know quite well on WhatsApp. I wouldn't even WhatsApp someone maybe I was in a long cycle deal with. Probably wouldn't even go that far. So certainly FaceTime for me is not one. I am using an Android, so that's not possible for me, thank the Lord. But I will say, just playing devil's advocate, I don't think it's a good idea. But you can argue the same thing about a cold call. If they accept it, fair game. But I wouldn't do it personally.
Catherine?
It's interesting. I think, depending from where I'm looking at the situation. We've talked about this before. I'm not necessarily the easiest person to connect to. I don't answer phone calls. I don't know, sometimes not even to my husband, but don't tell him. I'm more kind of a message, written communication person. And then definitely if I don't know you, it's hard, right? But we do sell, and we do sell in that form, the outreach, strategy, and we do have to cold call so that we are able to connect with our personas. Now, it's just another way of trying to really get a hold of people. It's one sign that we have been experiencing on the big challenge of getting numbers that will get you through. But I think it really falls into the same bucket as when people get so frustrated when they're calling them to their mobile, you're FaceTiming them. So you're even going more personal. It's a very fine line. And I think that by doing it, you're exposing yourself a lot more to rejection and craziness. But it depends, I guess, on the audience. It obviously depends on the message, and it depends on the team that it's at the end of the day doing it.
Okay, guys, I just got to say this. Let's be really clear about this. My final piece of wisdom to you, as the host here on The Drive, never, ever do a FaceTime cold call. Just trust us. Trust all of us on that. That's that final bit of news that you never knew you needed, but now you know. Isn't that great? Listen, as we bring things to an end here, I got to say a couple things, okay? I hope, just indulge me. I want to thank my amazing team. Behind the scenes, Daniel Allard has done so much to bring this all together. He's been a trooper. He's been amazing. Sean Finder, what an incredible man. So smart, talented. I just bounce off of him like you wouldn't believe. Catherine Robles, my regular co-host. She's the Sally to my Harry. We are so different, and she completes me in so many ways. She says what I don't know how to say, and she says it with such passion and love and interest, and I love her laughter. So Catherine has made this show so much fun. Ollie Whitfield. Ollie's incredible. You know him for his rants. He's his own person. He's out there. He's carving his own path. You should listen to his podcast. You should follow him. He's incredible. Ollie is the reason we have the show notes we have every week. He was the one that captured the stories and allowed us to show up and just be your hosts. Without him, the show was nothing. So Ollie, God bless you, man. With that all said, I just want to thank a couple other people. I want to thank Deb Calvert, and I want to thank the whole family at the Sales Experts channel, hosted here on Bright Talk. Amazing people, world class. Deb is a personal inspiration to me. She's so classy and so smart. So to them, thank you for letting us have this little run and hanging out with you for a while. But finally, as you might imagine, none of this is possible without you. So thank you for hanging out, spending some time, indulging us, tolerating when we go off track, and just laughing at our bad jokes. The news won't be the same. We're going, but not to be sad, because you can find us elsewhere. Go to VanillaSoft.com. You can find us on the Inside Sales Podcast. We're all over webinars. Sean and Ollie are on the 0 to 5 million podcast. So we're not going away. We're just leaving this platform for a while. In the meantime, we're done. We're out of here. Hope you enjoyed the little run we had. It was a blast. Folks, be safe. Take care. Go home. Hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them. With that, we're done.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.